As guitar players, we're often asked, what is the best guitar for a beginner? Most of the time it's asked by parents, but sometimes it's by adults that just get an itch and they've been wanting to play their whole life and just never got around to it. The great news is that there's probably never been a better time than right now to be a beginner guitar player. The quality of inexpensive guitars has improved greatly. You can find affordable amps with built-in effects, and budget pedals are very cheap online. But today's focus is going to be on guitars, electric guitars specifically. I'm going to go over some brands, types, and characteristics of a guitar that can help you find the guitar that's right for you or your child. The number one thing that is usually of most concern is the price. This is something to take into consideration no matter what the age of the person is that wants to learn. You don't want to make a huge investment in a guitar if they're just going to get bored with it or find out it's just not as easy as I thought it was going to be and give up on it. Because no matter what you buy, you're probably going to lose money on resale. So you want to try to go inexpensive, but not cheap. There's a difference. A cheap guitar is just that, and you're going to get what you pay for. If you see a brand that looks or sounds cheap, chances are it is, especially if you see it on Facebook Marketplace. Go to a website or just Google, but go to like Guitar Center or Sweetwater and search for that brand name on their sites. If it doesn't come up, it's probably a cheap guitar. Now, Guitar Center might have some in their used section online, so take that price into consideration for what they're selling it for. Which brings me to this. Just because a guitar is made in China or Indonesia doesn't mean it's cheap. And there's a good chance that there are cheap guitars being made in the same factories as some expensive ones. Some of the big names in guitars have production outsourced to a few different Asian factories that make guitars for multiple brands. What used to be considered bottom end is no more. They're still lower end, but the quality of these lines has improved immensely. Let's talk about some of those brands. First, and one of my favorites, Squier. Squier is a subsidiary of Fender that sells more affordable guitars. There was a time when I probably wouldn't have considered buying a Squier, but now I have 7 of them, and I've had more. It's a name that's often frowned upon by what we like to call the cork sniffers. Those are the people that think anything that's not an American Fender or Gibson is garbage. The fact is, Squier makes great guitars, and even their bottom line guitars, the Bullet series, are very well made guitars and a great place to start for a beginner. Ibanez is another big name that makes a very good beginner line. The Geo line of Ibanez has come a long way. They were made mainly as a starter pack guitar when they were introduced back in 1998, but they've made leaps and bounds in both design and quality. They're another that I honestly probably wouldn't have bought 20 years ago. Jackson is owned by Fender Guitars, and they have a few lower end lines in the JS series. Now, if you're going to go with this series, I would keep it in the JS32 line, as anything below that may lack in the quality department. The main thing I don't like about the JS series are the tuners, which tend to be quite lackluster. There are a few lesser known brands on Amazon that you might find that I've heard some really good things about, like Firefly, Donner, Sawtooth, Latitude, and IYV, just to name a few. Now let's talk about some of the characteristics and features of a guitar that may and may not be good for a beginner. The shape of a guitar is very important, as is the weight. You get a funny shaped guitar that's not well balanced, and the neck is going to constantly nosedive, which can make playing uncomfortable and annoying. Epiphone's SG and oddly shaped guitars tend to be this way. A guitar that is too heavy may discourage a beginner from playing, especially in the standing position. For a beginner, you want a guitar that's going to be comfortable to play both sitting and standing, especially for a young beginner. While Flying V's are cool, they're not the most comfortable guitar to play sitting down. BC Rich Warlocks and Beasts are cool looking too, but the pointy edges can make playing rough if they're digging into your belly. I've found that double cuts like a Strat and single cuts like a Telecaster or Les Paul are the most comfortable shapes to play because of their ergonomic contour. The bridge of a guitar is very important for a beginner as well. Some might say a beginner guitar should only have a hardtail, especially on an inexpensive guitar, because you want it to stay in tune as much as possible. However, there is nothing wrong with buying a beginner a non-locking tremolo, but I wouldn't buy a beginner guitar with a double locking like a Floyd Rose system on it. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, let me explain quickly. This is a hardtail, and there are no moving parts once it's set up. A tremolo bridge, sometimes called a whammy bar, allows the player to manipulate the pitch of the strings up and down by loosening or tightening them. A non-locking tremolo, like on your typical Strat, is free-floating, and you tune it from the headstock. The great thing about these is you can easily lock it down by tightening the spring in the back, We call that decking it out, so there's minimal to no movement. A double locking tremolo locks the strings on both ends and once tuned can be locked down on the headstock nut and fine-tuned from the bridge. If not done properly, it can create a huge tuning mess and a beginner just shouldn't have to deal with that. Let them get to a point where they can play well enough without having to worry about tuning issues if they move the tremolo slightly. Now, if that's what your child wants or you want, go for it. I wouldn't suggest it, but I would go with a hardtail. Scale length is the length of the guitar from the nut to the middle of the 12th fret and doubled. Some guitars have a shorter scale, while others have a long scale, such as a baritone or a bass guitar. Whether the guitar has a 25.5 inch scale or a shorter 24 3/4 inch scale shouldn't really make a huge difference to a beginner, but I wouldn't suggest a mini guitar for a beginner with a 22 inch scale. They can sometimes have tuning and intonation issues, and I think it's important for a beginner to learn to play on a normal scale guitar, so if and when they do transition to a larger scale guitar, it won't feel so foreign to them. Pickups are a very important factor when choosing a guitar. It all really depends on what kind of music the person wants to play. If they want to play slightly overdriven rock or blues, any single coil guitar will work just fine. If they want to learn how to play metal and maybe downtune, humbuckers are a better option, but not completely necessary. The 60 cycle hum you're going to hear from a single coil guitar may be a bit of a turnoff for a beginner if they're trying to play high gain. Every inexpensive guitar is going to have inexpensive pickups, but the beginner player probably won't even be able to tell the difference, and that's not something I would even worry much about. But even inexpensive pickups these days sound pretty good. Let's talk about neck shape, or the profile as it's often referred to. Neck shape has to be comfortable. If the neck is too fat and it's very difficult for a person to fret a note or chord, it might be discouraging, and vice versa. If a beginner is an adult and has a big old meaty bare hands and a neck's too thin, it might be uncomfortable to play. Most beginner guitars will have a D or C-shaped neck. There are also U and V shapes as well, but we won't dive that deep. D shapes tend to be a little bit thinner, while C tends to be a little bit rounder and thicker. As a person progresses, they may prefer other neck shapes. I could go into fret size, but that's just diving deeper than we really need to. Now, if I were to suggest a few beginner guitars, here's what I would go with. For a beginner child that's not very big, the Squier Mustang Bullet is a lightweight, well-balanced, and has a nice thin short scale neck, and sounds good for both clean and rock playing. They retail for about $199, and this one's been customized, so you're not going to see one like it in stores. For someone that wants to learn rock, blues, or country, Ibanez sells these AZ Essentials that sound great and are fantastic quality. They sell them in humbucker single-single or single-single-single, and this is the single-single-single one, obviously, and it's got a hardtail. The other one comes with a non-locking tremolo, and this thing just feels and plays nice. They retail from about $299 for the single-coil hardtail and $349 for the humbucker single coils. Squier sells bullet strats and Telecasters with single coils that are also great beginner guitars, and they're about $100 less, but I really like the AZS-30, and I think it's worth every penny. For the beginner that wants to play metal, I would go with the Ibanez Geo line, specifically the GRG series. The RG Super Strat shape, that's kind of hard to say fast, just screams metal, and the pickups in them are hot and built for chugging and shredding. The Geo RGs range from about $179 right on up to about $350. I would avoid the Micro Geos, as I mentioned about the mini scale guitars earlier. Now, Jackson has some nice budget models for the metal beginner, but I think Ibanez has better quality hardware. In the end, choosing a guitar must feel right for the person playing it. These are just simple guidelines and suggestions. Now, if you're an adult and you want to learn, go to a guitar shop. Let them know that you want to learn and what your budget is. Most guitar store employees will likely point you to the Squiers, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you're a parent and your child has expressed interest, let them choose a guitar. Maybe even show them this video. I know there is nothing more rewarding than seeing excitement in a child's eyes when they get a present that they really want on Christmas or their birthday, but maybe get them a gift card to spend at Guitar Center or a reputable guitar store and let them pick out their own guitar. Take them to the store, let them feel out any guitar within the budget, and sometimes that guitar that they thought they really wanted turns out not to feel so good in their hands. The idea here is to get the beginner set up with a guitar that they can and want to play. They have to want it. If it doesn't feel good or inspire them in some way, they aren't going to stick with it no matter how many lessons you send them to. That's why I encourage you to let them choose their first guitar, but let them know that there is a budget and maybe set a reward for them later on down the road. Like, if they progress and show true interest in continuing, then maybe they can get a much better guitar. So that sums it up. I hope this video has been helpful in making a decision for yourself or your child, and if it has, please consider hitting that like button for me and maybe even subscribing. Next time around, I'll talk about beginner amplifiers. I wish the best for you, and until next time, we'll see you on the flip side.